Hello guys, welcome to the next episode of the Banter Blitz. I suspect it will be quite loud on the background this time because my kid is super active. I hope it's fine. As for the episode we did last week, I started pretty cool. I've blundered a Rook in the very first game, so for today, my main task is just not to blunder big. There was a question about 5 minutes or 3 minutes. Well, 5 is better. It is preferred because in that case I have enough time to explain the things that are happening on the board. So let's go to challenges. Let's have a look. What do we have? Right now, Albing says all is good because, I usually ask if you can hear and see me well. So the answer actually came before the question. Very good. Thank you very much. So let's have a look. What do we have here? Many different challenges. So usually I start with guys I've never ever played before. But here is the challenge from Shelling Ford, and we actually have not played for a long time, so I'm going to start with this challenge, and then we will play several games against the guys I've never played before, and then we will come back to normal order of challenges. Okay. So open game and Italian, something new. Against Shelling. If I'm not mistaken, Shelling usually plays d4 on the first move, so trying to play some closed positions. Alright, this time it is different. Let's see. Bishop goes to b3, guy h6, h3, bishop to e6, something very typical for Italian. I usually try to exchange that bishop if there is a chance. Alright, now it goes to f1. So let me think. So d5 is a possibility, is always a possibility in such a situation. Also just capturing on b3 should be just okay. And now, I guess queen to d7. Fuchsia says Italian is so boring. Yeah, that's right. It's not very fun. For sure. Alright, bishop e3. No risk for white here. It's always interesting if d4 is a threat or not. So if we capture an e3, we just help white with the development. The thing is, it's not so clear which move to make here. So it's always possible to take, then to play knight to e7, making the position even more boring, I guess. But why not? So queen b7 is still not a threat because of rook b8, I suppose. And we can try something like knight e7, knight g6, maybe then at f4 or something like that. Shouldn't be that bad. Position is just balanced. So what if we try to do something with that queen? Queen goes to c2. Here I wanted to try knight to g6. g3. Okay. That is something I didn't expect. So let's try to come back with the queen. And maybe knight h5 creating rid of knight f4. It doesn't really help, I think. So let's first play queen to e6. kind of exerting some pressure on a2. Maybe I could have played d5 already there, by the way. Maybe that was a good choice. But I usually prefer to play d5 only after I have completed the centralization, so maybe after rook a to d8 or something. So for example, like this. So now everything is centralized and I'm more or less prepared for playing d5. Okay, white decided to stop me from doing that. So now I guess I'm like knight h5, maybe not that stupid. I'm just thinking of playing knight to f4. Maybe it's not entirely correct, but who knows. Maybe at some point it will be a real threat. Knight goes to f5. There I wanted to simplify position with the help of this move. Maybe it's already something not very good. But again, you never know. So let's try it. So d4, very logical, very active. Very active. Knight takes f5, e takes f5, queen goes to f6, what's that? d5, d5, rook d8, and d5 drops. Alright, so what if we just play this going back? White, of course, can play d5, grabbing more space. White should be better here, I suppose. At very least, white has more space in this position. But at the moment, I don't have weaknesses, so maybe I'm still fine. Let's see. So knight takes e7. That's the question, how to take, with the rook or with the queen. Do I need my queen here, or it's better to move it to e7, controlling c5? It doesn't really stop white from playing c5 there, so I don't see a big reason in actually having the queen on e7. Here at least I can try something like this. So just exerting some pressure on b4. Again, maybe it's not very correct, but it's hard to find anything useful anyway. We don't have a lot of space here, so a4 is coming, right? I'm gradually being squeezed, so I need some counterplay quickly. I need some counterplay based on f7, f5 at some point. We're not talking about real attack there because I don't have enough resources, but at least I have to try to open up the F file to have some, active possibilities. So like f5 right now doesn't look correct. So e takes f5, e4, knight e4. So white is just better. So let's go there with the rook. Okay, I have to take. And I hope I don't blunder something immediately. Everything looks protected, although white already has much better pawn structure, and I believe it is the position with the strategic advantage for white, so my only choice here, my only chance here is to come up with something dynamic. It will be very hard because I no longer have kind of enough resources or something. So let's go this way. At least it looks like something now. Some initiative on light squares. Or maybe it's just, you know, an illusion. So there is knight g6 coming. Oh my goodness, it's not very cool. It's not very cool. So I have to make this move. Now I have to make this move. And I'm very close to losing the game. Very close. Okay, kind of last chance to bring the knight here. So, what do we have here? Is there anything? Oh, I don't think so. Is there a resource that can help at least a bit? I don't see it. Oops. That was not possible. Like at all. Nah, it's just absolutely lost. No resources, nothing, absolutely. Oops, yeah. Okay, that was actually absolutely deserved. I mean, at some point it looked like I would have some counterplay, but knight h4 was kind of very strong. Let's get back to that position. So after knight h4, it's probably just lost, if I'm not mistaken. At least I don't see how to. Okay, maybe f takes c4 was the last mistake. Maybe this was my last chance, like to play rook here, and if knight takes, then I take, pawn takes, queen takes, like attacking f2, and then after white protects f2, I have knight g5 as a resource, attacking h3, and some light squares around the king. So, don't know. Okay, but that position after sacrificing the rook was also quite interesting, I mean, here. So, maybe I should have played something else exactly at this moment. So, f3 is definitely not correct, I believe. So, after f3, I have no chances whatsoever. What could be my chance here? e3 maybe instead of f3. That's an interesting move. So creating a bunch of threats like queen e4, again, same f3, queen to g5, don't know, should be lost of course, but at least it's not as clear as in the game, right? Especially if white takes, I think I should have some resources here, I should have some play, because now the king becomes very exposed. So maybe queen e4 check, maybe queen g5 even, and then f takes e3 and so forth. So, I have no idea. e3 is interesting. Was probably the best chance for black here anyway. As for other things, I think I made a serious mistake somewhere here. So position looked not so bad at this very moment. So probably rook a to d8 was too slow. d5 was interesting. Maybe even after king g2, there was the right moment to try d5. So I don't think black should be better. Should be better already after d5. Position is still balanced. I also don't think that black has problems. So everything is pretty much equal here. White has some problems with the king side potentially. That's why white is not really into taking on d5, because it will weaken light squares a lot. So I guess here black is just okay. So rook a to d8 is coming. If necessary, I can protect d5 with a c6. So yeah, here I lost my main chance, I think, to get very pleasant position. So let's go further. That was interesting anyway. Thank you for this experience. So let's see. Oops. Sebik 1996. What happened to the previous account? I do believe it is Sebi, right? So anyway, let's accept. So technically, there are no games against this account. Kind of new user. Yeah, but the opening repertoire is the same. So I would say this is Sebastian. Same Sebastian we have played already. But that is just, guessing, because I'm not entirely sure. Because again, it's a different account. Maybe it is just a fan of Sebastian who created this account. Who knows? And he's just copying his openings. Everything is possible nowadays. Okay, I was very close to 3100s. I'm still pretty close, but I was closer. But now, Shelling actually kicked me back. Of course, it's not about rating, right? So, what to do here? Let's try d4. And from bishop e6, I was thinking of even playing d5, but that is not right for sure. So gonna play queen d3. If there is an exchange on b3, my queen on b3 will be quite good, exerting pressure on f7 and simultaneously on b4. So at very least, my queen will replace the bishop on that long diagonal. Queen goes to e7. All right. Everything is more or less protected, so I think I can try something like rook to a7. Why not? Active move. Occupying the 7th rank, now exerting some pressure on c7 and preparing another rook to a1. Fuxia, do you know somebody who has 4,000? Because I actually don't. Now it's an interesting choice between knight takes d4, creating a bunch of threads like knight c6, knight f5, but damaging the pawn structure, and e takes d4. So what is better? I have no idea. Knight d4 looks just wrong, but dynamically it's maybe the right choice, just to activate the knight quickly. c7 will be under pressure. c6 square in particular. Well, I don't know. It's really tempting to do both. Let's try knight e4. After all, it's blitz, and portion of experimenting should be just okay. So if queen e4, I was going just to take on c7 since my e3 is protected by the queen, so I'm fine there with that. But maybe it's not very dangerous for black as well, so maybe queen e4 is absolutely possible. So there is a discussion about the possibility to reach this 4,000 rating. Yeah, theoretically it's definitely possible, but how strong should it be? And how much time you should invest to get there? Sounds pretty weird to have 4,000. Like, come on. I have a feeling that no one ever had. Maybe I'm mistaken. At least in Blitz. Didn't hear something like that. Right, now what to do? Knight h4 is also an interesting option, just creating sort of a checkmate, but I thought I would be okay after rook f2. So now I can try rook f4, where the queen goes. There is queen g6 move. So rook f4 is probably an interesting idea, but it's not decisive. Knight to c6. Is it a move? Knight takes c6, rook takes f7, rook f7, queen f7. That looks good. But what if after knight c6, rook f7, black just plays king somewhere, king to h8, for example? I don't think I have anything there. So, interesting. Knight to f5 simply looks pretty promising, so let's try this. Active move with the knight. After all, I've captured on d4 and damaged my pawn structure only to make my knight more active. So d4 was definitely not the final destination. Now right now, knight f5 looks interesting because I attack d6 and e7 square is also under pressure. At some point I may even think of playing knight e7 check knight d5 if necessary. And by the way, after knight f5 I think my initial rook f4 idea becomes a bit more dangerous because now the queen is kind of surrounded by different pieces. So let's see, for example, now rook f4 forces the queen to a8, right? Again, if I'm not like blundering something immediately, it forces the queen to a8 and I can grab b4 pawn, which is already sort of achievement. So like the first achievement in the game. Okay, here I can just go back with the rook. Everything is protected. And now, so what about just playing this? Covering c4. And maybe intending to play c4 at some point. After this, we can take on d6. Now we have two extra pawns. After this move, we can play rook to c5. Now the knight on e5 is kind of, well, I thought I would win it, but not so simple, right? Okay, so let's take. Let's play c4. Let's play b4. No, I should win this knight, right? It felt like there should be something against that knight. It was really not protected. Okay. So, it's really hard to say, but feels like after rook a7, I already had some sort of pressure. After ed4, knight e4, queen e4, not sure it was the best move, because you exchanged my weak e4 pawn for your c7, which was quite important one, in the sense of the pawn structure. Maybe I would have preferred something like queen d7 here, just covering c6 square, or maybe something like rook b6, I don't know, with a similar idea, or maybe even rook to a8. So should be calculated carefully which one tactically works. But of course, queen e4 shouldn't be bad. All right, so rook takes here. I guess knight e5 is not very good. On the other hand, how to protect f7? That's a question. So knight h4, just rook f2. It's only one move threat, so it's not really dangerous. Don't know. Yeah, position is not so simple to evaluate. But I have a feeling somewhere here you could have played better. So maybe not even bishop to e6. Maybe something like queen e7 first. Or maybe even bishop b7 here. I know that bishop is normally, not very good on this diagonal, but white has already played d4, which means this bishop has an object of attack. And if white plays d5, well, black should be happy because bishop b3 is no longer active. And if white instead protects the pawn like knight d2, doesn't feel like very active position for white anymore. But I know it's still complicated. It's still kind of not so clear. Here, on the other hand, black can play queen g5. Since knight no longer controls that square, it's quite pleasant position for a queen. Attacking e3, attacking g2, and what is really important, preventing something like queen g4, queen h5. Have no idea. I would have played maybe something like that. Okay, thanks for the game. Next one. Let's see. Naxo chess we have already played, so we will get back to that game a bit later. Here is Limux or Limux, don't know. Accept. Playing with black pieces. Again, it's important not to blunder big. Come on, man, it's your turn. Make your move. There are other challengers waiting as well. You are online, so are you going to play? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. Let's go further. So, amigo, Alex, accept. E4. Almost immediately after I accepted the challenge. Let's go. So, Italian or Ruy Lopez? Ruy Lopez. Nice. Castles. So I can castle as well here. I usually try to develop my pieces just as if white played d4. Because at some point it may transpose. And the difference will be that white basically played d4 in 2 moves, not like immediately d4. Let's try to do something with that bishop, because it's annoying. And now, so knight f5 is kind of annoying stuff. So maybe it makes sense for me just to play g6, but then there can be some like b4, and then bishop comes back to b3. Let's try just c5. It shouldn't be that bad. Okay, knight goes to f5. What if we just play this move? Preparing g6, I mean. Queen f3. Normally, I would have played knight g8 immediately, preparing this g6 further. But I don't think I need it really, so maybe g6 is possible right away. Like g6, knight takes, bishop takes, king takes. Looks like a safe option, so let's try g6. So h6 is protected, right? I can do it. Now bishop g4, forcing the queen to e3. Looks interesting. What else though? Simple bishop g7 maybe? Now bishop g7 looks like a move that fixes some problems with the coordination in my camp. And d4 doesn't look like white is well prepared for this opening in the center. Just doesn't feel like that. What if I just play knight to g4? Then queen takes f7, queen h4, queen takes d7, queen h2. Looks interesting, but I'm not entirely sure. So let's just take. e4 was also promising. Come back with the knight to c6, attacking d4, which is weakened. Without the knight on f3, so knight is missing there, really. Takes with the pawn. Again, taking with the knight was also interesting, but I just want to land on d4 at some point. So what's going on? Knight e4 is a threat. Even without an attack against the queen, it will be quite annoying, I suppose. And white cannot play bishop e3. Well, technically he can, of course, but I'll be happy to see that. Amigo says, I'm just listening to YouTube. All right. That's okay. But I'm not like revealing everything, so. And sometimes I can even say something wrong intentionally. So be careful, just like right now. Let's do it. Looks promising. And here's the question, what to do next? There are plenty of, promising options here. Queen d7, let's say. Simply capturing on b3, but that is too simple. I suppose. Let's play queen d7, protecting f7, and maybe intending to bring the queen to h3, maybe. Now it's time to complete the development, maybe to exert some additional pressure in the center. What about this move? Rook a to d8. Supporting my knight, because it's definitely the main piece here. And now I wanted to regroup my pieces a bit. So rook protects the knight. My queen is no longer needed on d7. Now there is a weakness on f4. A serious one. Since the bishop went away. Let's try to use this square. My knight will be just ideal there, but even the bishop will be okay. Let's see. All right, h4 creates a weakness, so we can play this. h4 is under attack. Let's bring the rook to d file. It just belongs to this square, then knight to c5 maybe. Yeah, looks great. And now, well, first let's take the pawn, because it's just a pawn after all. Pawns matter. Come back to c5. And now there is a possibility to bring the knight to d3 maybe, to finally get to f4. Oh, especially after queen b2. It's very cool. So we're doing this with the tempo. It's very important. So attacking the queen, bringing the knight to f4 should give black a decisive advantage. To take on h4, I'm not sure, so I'll start with this first. Maybe I was wrong, maybe taking on h4 was okay. I don't see a big reason in being in a rush in this sense, because h4 will drop anyway, sooner or later. Now there is no risk to be a victim of white's counterplay there, along the h file, I mean. And I think it's a good moment to bring my bishop to the game. Okay, so check. Getting closer, closer and closer. My king is pretty much safe, so I suppose I'm fine. Now I can try this move. Yeah, so it's lost already. Basically, strategically, it was very hard for white already here when white captured on d4. So here it was necessary to keep the bishop, keep the dark squared bishop on the board at least. And at least this guy, because it is the main defender of this f4 square. Without that bishop, it's really hard to protect that square. And in general, dark squares, they're quite weakened after I captured on f3. So I suppose that was the real mistake. Somewhere here, obviously, white could have played better. So basically, I do believe that d4 was the start of the wrong operation. Exactly here, white is just not ready for it. So in general, this queen f3 is not that dangerous for black because of this simple g6. And after that, white has some problems with the coordination. So I would have considered, in fact, something like b4 here in this position. Maybe not exactly here, but after king h7, yeah, when f7 is hanging, that is an interesting moment to try this. So if I take, let's say takes, and knight goes back, now there is bishop to b3, attacking f7. As we may notice, it's not so simple to protect it, but maybe I'm fine after bishop e6, I don't know. But it should be that bad for black, obviously. So, should be just, more or less balanced position here. Another idea is just not to play this knight f5 at all, because normally it's not very dangerous. So it can be dangerous only if, for example, black's queen is away. Then, yeah. But since my knight on f6 is protected and I can always play g6, I can even start with knight g8 if I need additional protection of h6, then g6, bishop g7. So this should be just fine for black. I mean, you just lose some time on moving the knight to f5 and so forth. And then you actually spend the time... No, you spend the time on moving the knight to f5, but then you lose the time when I start kicking this knight away. So you just go back to not very good position on h4 and so forth. Maybe you should have tried something like knight to e3. So here after g6, let's say, just knight to e3. I understand it doesn't look probably very active, but here the knight is at least better than on h4. It controls d5 additionally and so forth. But then again, your normal plan when you have such a pawn structure is to play a3, b4, bishop b3, then to do something with the d5 square. So the queen is just misplaced on f3 for that plan, I believe. So, okay. Let's go further. Anyway, thanks for the game. Who's next? Let's see if we have somebody I've never ever played before. Yes, there are a lot of, actually. City Slicker we have already played somehow. Don't know how. I don't remember it. So here is Jon 606. Let's play. Lost my chat window. Have to restore it. Okay. Back here. Have to scroll down. I have to scroll down, sorry. To get to the latest comment. Oh, shit. Yeah, here we are. So, Jon, it's your move. It's your turn. Let's go. C4. I haven't seen this move for ages during Banter Blitz shows. I mean, E4. All right. Fuchs asks, did everyone fall asleep? Perfectly possible. Even I feel like this show is quite boring. So, knight to f3. d6. It's a very strange combination of moves, like c4, e4, g3. All this may lead to between X triangle after d3, knight e2, knight, bishop g2, but knight on f3, that is strange to me. Maybe I just don't understand something, but looks a bit strange. And bishop to d3, that is something very strange. A very fresh position, at least. First of all, I want to keep my bishop on the board, and I feel like white is going to play knight a4 at some point. So let's play just a6, being ready to step back to a7 if necessary. There is a commenter, maybe openings are overrated. Yeah, but what created so many weaknesses? So, I mean, you can play whatever you want, obviously, but somehow White's position no longer looks that safe. That's what I mean. Okay, let's go back to a7. Now our bishop is safe. No b4 stuff, nothing. And why it is so important? Because, well, d4 is very important square. We have to control it additionally. With e-pawn, knight, and the bishop, and probably this knight as well. So I'm thinking of the maneuver like knight e7, knight c5, knight e6 at some point. Or maybe knight e7, knight f8, knight e6. And we control d4. And at some point, of course, I want to land on d4 with my knight. What is also tempting here is to try some like bishop h3 followed by bishop g2. Looks nice. Or knight g4 attacking f2. There are many pleasant options, to be honest. So let's start with the h6. Controlling g5. So that my bishop on h3 will be also safe. Bishop b2. Alright. Now bishop to h3. Be not afraid of knight to g5. Right? Right. Good. Knight to g4 starts looking like a threat at some point. Maybe not that great threat because of knight to e3, but still. What about now? So knight to g4. If knight to e3 protecting the pawn f2, then knight to b4 attacking the queen, getting to that bishop. Oh, there is also knight on f3, which is weakened after queen to c2, so maybe I can consider queen f6 if white eventually plays this knight to e3. If white doesn't do that, then f2 will most likely drop. Knight to g1, wow. That is too much. I mean, bishop g2, right? Simply. Bishop takes f2 check is also just winning. But why not bishop g2? I'm just curious. Yeah, white made just too many weaknesses in this game. Too many weaknesses. I can take here. F takes g4. I can take the knight on g1. Never had something like this in my practice. Wow. What is the best move now? Just knight to d4, I think. Centralization. Let's go there. Obviously, I cannot save that. Well, one of that bishops to know which one is more important. They're all good. So which one to save? Let's start with the c6. I'm not ready to make a decision immediately, so let's start with just attacking that knight. Knight goes to b4. All right. Wow. Look at this queen. And the king. King is quite bad. There's just a feeling. I mean, bishop takes c4, bishop e4, knight e2 is just a checkmate. But I understand after bishop e4, white will capture on d4 first. But then I can take on d3 with the tempo, and then I can take on d4, and somehow I will have an extra rook, right? So let's do it. Yeah, now takes here. If I'm not blundering something terrible, it should be just extra rook after all. Yeah. And it's time to castle, I think. Finally. Running away from the center. So let's remove this great move. Oh, opponent disconnected. Is it really a disconnection or my opponent just left the game? If it is the second thing, that is not very cool, man. But let's believe it is a real disconnection. Otherwise, you could have resigned, right? No, it was just a real disconnection, sure. Okay. Yeah, checkmate. And yeah, it was really dubious right from the start. I mean, somewhere here, if you play c4, e4, it's okay. But then you should probably try some like bishop g2, then knight to c3, and then knight to e2, just like trying to play between this triangle. So it's absolutely playable thing, absolutely valid, and the only thing that matters is the order of moves, because there are some tactical tricks based on my active bishop on c5 and the weakness of d4 and the vulnerability of f2. But in general, that is what you should try when you play c4 and e4. That's the most logical setup in this case. With the knight on f3, well, it's still playable, no questions, but it's kind of hard now for white to bring the pieces to active positions, to prove anything here, and so forth. But bishop d3 was really bad. So bishop simply is misplaced here, and yeah, it's hard for you to complete a development after that. Well, black has very simple play. Okay, thank you for the game. Let's have a look. Somebody else we haven't played before. Gambit player. Okay, let's play Gambit player. And then back to normal order of challenges. So let's see what kind of gambit is possible against knight f3. Yeah, I'm pretty tired. Pretty tired. And I'm not sure that next week it will be better, but probably in 2 weeks, if there will be a show, I'll be okay. And we'll play better, I think. So what do we have here? We have like King's Indian reversed. King's Indian reversed. That's interesting. So we have kind of extra tempo, which I find good. The only problem, I've never ever played King's Indian as black, so... there was an interesting question. You know what mostro means in Italian? No, no idea. Absolutely, no idea. Castles. And what about knight d5? Immediately, although when you see such a square like d5, you usually want to try to get there gradually, like to occupy it with your pieces, if there is a chance. Well, I don't know. Let's try this. Bishop g5. It is so-called King's Indian attack. No, it's not a King's Indian attack, I guess. Well, at least it doesn't look like King's Indian attack. Normal lines. I have no idea. To me, it's just, you know, King's Indian defense reversed. 1-1. I misplayed it, basically. It was much better to do some like rook e1, knight e2, bishop f1, bishop c4, but I thought it would be kind of very slow. But black decided not to take on d5. I expected bishop takes d5, to be honest. Followed by some like knight d4. Black is absolutely fine. So now I can play c3, covering d4. I think here I should be slightly better in this position. Andrey, are there any gambits that you have played in an actual strong tournament? Just curious. Well, there was one time when I played e4, c6, d4, d5, f3 with the pawn, sacrificing the pawn a bit later, if it can be counted as a gambit. Then it's something like that. Queen's Gambit? No. Never played Queen's Gambit. Never, ever. As for other gambits, I don't remember, but feels like no. I'm not kind of gambit player. All right, bishop g5. What's interesting, I can try knight g5, queen g5, knight to c7, rook to d8, and knight takes c6. And if rook d1, I take the queen. So it's an intermediate capture. Black is forced to take on e6 with the pawn, which damages the pawn structure. Then I have queen b3 attacking both c6 and b7. And this looks pretty promising, so let's do it. This interesting transformation. Again, if I'm not blundering something terrible here. So I hope I calculated the right way. So knight takes c6, attacking the queen. If rook d1, knight g5, I'm just a piece up, so black has to take on e6. And then I will just play queen to b3. Better pawn structure. And black's experiencing some problems with protecting both pawns. So queen e7 is obviously possible. But then bishop h3 is pretty annoying. isn't it? Bishop h3, rook f6. Maybe I just overestimated my position. Maybe I don't have anything specific here. But first of all, in any case, I have to prevent b7, b5 grabbing the space. Rook d7. Maybe bishop h3 right now would be logical to prevent black's rook from going to d8, right? Rook to d6 instead. Now c5 is hanging, so maybe queen b6 should be considered, or maybe queen c4. What about queen c4? How to protect c5? That's an interesting question. Ah, there is knight a5. Stupid me. There is knight a5, queen c5, knight b3, winning the exchange. But maybe I can sacrifice an exchange for 2 pawns like that. So, in general, of course, you shouldn't sacrifice anything if you're better, and I believe I'm better here. So, was not necessary, but knight a5 was interesting after queen c4. So if queen c5, then knight b3, attacking the queen and the rook on a1. That is what I missed there. Here I'm a pawn up, and my bishop protects b3. Very nice. What's interesting, rook c2 is possible. Again, another move I didn't actually evaluate correctly. I will show you soon after the game. So first of all, let's just finish this one. I think we should convert the advantage here, so extra pawn. Rook to d8. Should we play f4 here or just rook to d1? Rook to d1 is good. Why? Because we exchange the rook by force, and it is the most active piece in black's camp. Now we're much better, have an extra pawn, and there is no risk for us anymore. Let's go to the center with the king. b7 is hanging now. Okay. What about this move? Simplifying even more. Oh, this is a big blunder. Okay. I just offered the exchange of rooks. No surprises, black blundered because black was already in a terrible time trouble. Only several seconds. So, what was interesting here, black could have played this move. Rook to c2, attacking my pawn c3. That is what I underestimated. The point is, if I play c4, this weakens b3, and what is really important, this weakens d4, and the knight becomes really active and very strong piece. Much better than that bishop. At very first glance, I thought I would have this rook to c1, but then I've noticed this possibility. Typical thing, so both rooks of black and white are attacking each other, and if white takes one, black takes another one. So black regains a pawn here, and I think it should be just, close to equal. But maybe I'm wrong, so what if I just take here, play king g2, because there is a threat of a checkmate on f8. It's not so simple. Maybe white is still better because of that threat. So if h6, then rook f8 check, king goes to h7, then rook somewhere, don't know. Let's just guess. So rook f8, king there, so like bishop f5 here. Yeah, this is definitely a position with the advantage for white because we managed to take on b7 as well if we need. I mean, in this case, for instance, rook takes c3, then rook takes b7, and we're still a pawn up. Although, this position is not so simple if compared to what happened in the game. So this was definitely worth trying. I mean, rook c2 looked pretty cool. And here, the other thing I didn't notice with knight to a5. Just if my queen goes away, you have c4, and you fix the weakness on b3, then the knight can be improved further, and I'm no longer sure that white is better even. So if queen takes c5, then knight b3, and I have to sacrifice in exchange for these 2 pawns. Well, once again, I'm not sure I have a complete sufficient compensation here. Anyway, it was really annoying for white. Having like a comfortable position and then all of a sudden being forced to play an exchange down. That is really annoying. So instead of doing that, I should have played a5, I believe, to start with. And then queen c4 becomes a threat. Yeah. Attacking c5 and still attacking e6 and so forth. Yeah. Missed that. Missed this rook to c2. Missed a lot. But fortunately, my opponent didn't notice that. So let's continue. Let's continue. And chess pagel is the next accept. Black pieces again. Okay, now let's play d6. Can we try this? Not sure, but I will play it the right way because, again, I've played this only as white, not as black. Now, there is a great discussion on what to play and what to try. If you're not a very experienced player, I would also suggest playing e4, in fact. Because first and foremost, you should learn what is the initiative, the attack, and so forth. So to feel the dynamics, and only then to master positional chess. That is very natural way of learning chess, at least. First tactics, dynamics, and then when you understand that it doesn't work, you start learning strategy and so forth. And you should try in general to play some funny openings. Maybe some gambits are good. Of course, it depends on various factors. I mean, how old you are, for instance, and so forth. Before. What's going on? What was the reason of playing b4? Don't understand it at all. I mean, like, was too early, I think. Sadly, mid-30s. All right, you're still good enough for tactical things. So to take there or not to take, just ignore it, I think, right? Let's just complete the development. Knight to d2. Okay, castling should be just fine. So we have typical pawn structure with the pawn chain. Normally you have a dark square bishop here, but I decided to get rid of it, like on the move number 4. I played bishop h6. Because usually this bishop is quite poor, I think. So Kolle Zuckertort. I know several players that started playing that crap and actually never switched to anything else. That is too artificial, in my opinion. I mean, the approach to the opening, you're like limiting the scope so that you easily learn this line, and then you become so lazy that you're no longer capable of learning something really good, but something that is, requiring some work, sort of memorizing, understanding, and so forth. Yeah, the plan is very easy to learn, but it doesn't mean that it helps you improve as a chess player. I used to know some guys that played simply, like f4 on the first move, d4 on the second move, and then this crap with knight f3, knight to e5, and so forth. And they were pretty successful on the beginner's level. But then they never switched to anything else. It just stopped working at some point, and they stopped playing chess. That's it. So my recommendation would be just play open games. Try to play dynamic positions. Learn from it, although it may be painful at the very beginning, and read as many good books as possible, not necessarily dedicated to openings, just well commented games, well commented by grandmasters and the games of grandmasters, of course. Alright, black is doing well in this position, I believe. Knight on f4 looks very good. There is no this bad bishop on g7, being limited with own pawns. There is my queen on g7, but it is way more flexible if compared to bishop of that sort. For example, I can put it on h6, and if compared to the bishop, it also controls the h file, which is nice. On the other hand, what can I do with all that? Not that much, right? What's the way to know the square name without thinking? Just to have an amazing experience in chess when you just learn the whole board by heart. It, comes automatically at some point. So just look at the square and you know what's that. If you ask me, for example, what is the color of the square, I will also answer without thinking. It's not magic. I just started playing chess when I was 5. And I'm almost 30, so you can imagine. Well, there were some breaks, like I was studying in the university and I almost... Yeah, really, I didn't play during that time. And some years after that, so... But at that moment, I was already an international master, so it doesn't count. I mean, this break. Right, what's going on? So, what if I just play this? Attack in h3. Maybe there was something much more efficient, much more straightforward. But this also looks not that entirely bad, I must say. So there is a shred of bishop f1. Even after rook takes f6, there is bishop f1. Knight takes, queen takes. Right, g3 is protected, but everything else is kind of very weak. Even if b takes a5, then knight e7, knight c5 looks pretty dangerous for white, I think. Again, queen h6, one more time. Second time during this game. Let's bring the queen here. All right, let's take here, knight e4, just to simplify position a bit. Knight c3, just collecting everything. What's hanging here? Rook takes f3 now. Everything is being collected, move by move. So it's lost completely. Knight to c5, no chances for white, like, at all. Check, takes, knight c5. So, like, methodically eliminating everything in this position, except for the pawn on d5, but I think it's not a big problem. Okay. So what happened here? I think b4 was really a strange move. After that, it's really hard to come up with anything active on the queen side, because after a5 you have to play something ugly like this. Moreover, somewhere here after bishop h6, I do believe you could have captured. What's that? Okay, here bishop takes h6, knight takes h6, and maybe then h3. So forcing my knight to a bad position. Now I have to spend a lot of time to improve it, I think, because you want to play queen d2 at some point. Instead of playing b4, just start with c4, knight c3 first. That's the normal way of developing pieces in such a situation. In general, I wouldn't recommend playing d5 in this position at all. Or at least after d5 and g6, don't play knight f3. Start again with c4, knight c3, and so forth. So, my knight on f3 taken by rook was blunder. What was that? What was a blunder? Let's have a look. Knight on f3 taken by rook. Somewhere here already, or what was that? Where? I don't remember. The knight. That was a blunder. Where? How is that a blunder? I don't understand. So the knight on f3 taken by rook was a blunder. I mean, here it doesn't matter even if you don't like play bishop d3. There is this threat of knight e2, rook takes f3, knight gives way, take on b4, so it's lost already. I mean, this position is no longer that great. So somewhere here, I think there was still a chance to get something. So after f4, what to do? Maybe g4. Maybe g4 here. Feels like I can still take on g4 in this case, but maybe it's just an illusion. So obviously if I play knight g3 and you play king g2, I have very nice checkmate on h1 with a queen, but you just play knight h3 or bishop h3, I think. Maybe instead of that, no. If I play knight f6, you have even queen to h3, so it doesn't work. So maybe g4 here. And white is okay. So that was a real chance for you. Maybe you're even slightly better because you have more space. Don't think so, but who knows? All right. One more. City Slicker. So how come we have already played? don't understand, don't remember it. Okay, doesn't matter. Let's play. Knight goes to f3. d5, c4. e3. So, this is also the opening for lazy guys. But if you are a beginner, you shouldn't play this. It's really simple to make a positional mistake and get a position that is just awful. So it's better to play something normal, like e4 on the first move, to learn chess, to learn dynamic chess. Although it's not the only approach. I know many people started playing d4 at the very, very beginning, so who cares? That is just something that is usually recommended by my coach, and I do respect him because he is just amazing. So isolated pawn on d5. It's not much, I know. But it's something. I can attack. So should I play knight e4 here? Just trying to simplify everything, like immediately, at least blockading the pawn because I was not sure. Knight c3 was great. But knight c3 was probably better than knight e4 immediately because after d5, d4 there was knight to a4. Like knight c3 to a4, attacking the bishop. And d4 was hanging in that case. Alright. Okay, bishop a3 maybe. It looks very strange, but maybe it's something that works. Because in general, exchanging dark square bishops is quite good for white here. But maybe it's just too late and I'm blundering something again. So, yeah, at least bishop d4 is possible. Yikes. Bishop d4 is a possibility. But bishop a3 was played, actually. Okay. Maybe it doesn't look very attractive right now. But this pawn will be here for a long time, maybe till the end of the game. My knight on a3 is awful, on the other hand, so I have to solve that problem as soon as possible. Don't see anything anymore, just too tired. Knight goes to c2. If, for example, black plays somewhere for c8, I wanted to take on c6 and to play knight d4 with the tempo, because in that case, a6, a hanging a6 pawn would have stopped black from playing b7 takes c6. Now if I take on c6, black obviously recaptures with the pawn, and if I go to d4 with the knight, there is c5, so it's not that clear right now. So, because of that, I'll start with the queen d2, centralization, and then we will see. Knight to d7. That is already something I'm not very sure in. Okay, so let's just keep on playing. Maybe the idea will become clear a bit later. On this knight to d7. Aha, that was the idea. Wow. Just kind of attacking g2 and c2. Just imagine if I don't have the knight on d4 covering my knight on c2. May have been a double attack and I missed it. Of course, knight e1 is always possible, but anyway. So what can be potentially wrong with this queen g6? So after f3, the bishop has only f5 squared to step back. And then d5 should be heading. This bishop cannot be trapped, I believe. Okay, maybe just knight e1 to start with. Looks terrible, but yeah. Pretty solid. I have a very concrete idea behind it. Just to play f3, bishop f5. Then I capture it, and I capture in d5. Super greedy Andrey, winning a pawn. Oh my goodness. So, f3, is it possible? Knight takes d4, queen takes d4, and f3 is protected with the bishop and with the knight. Pawn g2 is pinned, but having the bishop and the knight protected is just enough. So, let's play f3. That's the idea. Is there a way to control your nerve when you lose in a game? So far I broke 2 Mabas in one lap. Oh my god. That's too much. I don't think there is anything like a specific method of doing it. Exactly, applied to chess or something. So I think it's like a general thing how you react to losses, right? When something goes not like you expected. Oh crap! I have almost done this shit. I have almost played this queen c5 and I've knight f3 wins after that. Oh my god! Was too focused on thinking of like that question about nerves. I'm also quite nervous when I'm losing, but one game after another, and I really learn how to not give a shit about that, because it's just a game after all. Just a game. Never forget about it. It's not serious. It cannot be serious. Knight to e5, okay, h3. I'm gonna lose this on time, I have a feeling. Although I have a better position. Okay, slightly better position. But I just don't have the time on the clock. Okay, this improves my position seriously. Alright, so extra pawn now. And my pawns are quite good. But again, no time. That's a big problem. Just no time whatsoever. Okay, fixing the weakness. Oops, what's that? Oh, this is amazing. It should be just winning by force, right? Yeah, the pawn is just here. Check. We have to take all the pawns first. So to avoid like losing on time. And here is a better thing. So checkmate on b4. Alright, that was very, very strange game. So I was not really focused. And almost lost it at some point. So here I was about to play queen c5, but this loses immediately because of knight takes f3. What a tricky move, rook to d8. Who would expect that, huh? That simple rook d8 would be so sneaky. But alright, somewhere here, I believe, I could have played much better. So first of all, knight to c3 is just a normal way to develop the knight. After d4, the move I didn't really like. I can play knight to a4, again, the move that I didn't even look at when I considered playing this knight to c3 during the game. Obviously there is something like that, but after knight c5, pawn takes c2, queen takes c2, I'm a pawn up, and I have an intermediate move, rook to d1. I mean, if black attacks the knight with the b6, let's say, intending to play bishop d3, I always have this rook to d1 first, and then knight goes somewhere. So, should be better for white. Again, if I'm not blundering something terrible. So after knight to c3, I have several ideas, including just knight to a4, and then knight to d4, or maybe knight a4, rook c1, and then knight c5, just like in Tarish, let's say, typical plan. I also have this knight b5 followed by knight e4. So white is doing well here against this isolated pawn. It's just a slight advantage. Long-term advantage, obviously. So black's position is not really bad right now. Everything depends on how white is playing against that pawn, if he manages to blockade it for a long time, if there are enough resources to, exert some pressure on it and so forth. And everything depends on black's counterplay. So if black manages to do something like knight e4 quickly, bringing the bishop to c7, queen to d6, playing a6, preventing knight b5 and creating some spreads to h2, then black will be also okay. So, I guess there will be only one more game this time, because I'm really, really tired somehow. And I'm playing this game against Olaf 146. Let's go. Simple play against Karakan, just e5. And e6 again, so I have a feeling we have already played something like this. I don't think it's a good idea for black to play e6, limiting the bishop c8. Feels just passive, and it is passive. Unnecessary passive, I would say. Alright, let's go. Let's go! a4, a5. And this weakens b5 a lot. Let's go to b5 then. And this gives me a pair of bishops. So black is somehow making his position worse, move after move. So all these are positional mistakes. And this should become really important at some point. So how to bring my rook a3 to the king side? I don't want to play c4, to be honest, but I think without that move it's just impossible. There is just a positional thing like bishop h4, bishop g3, controlling that diagonal, but do I really need that diagonal? I'm no longer sure. Rook to b3 is also an interesting option, but then b6, so what? Too many good options here for white. I don't know which one to take, which one to prefer. Maybe just, simple centralization. Back to A1, then to E1, and okay. We are in the center now, without much trouble. Now, that was nonsense. Queen e3 is just a very bad move. Very stupid one. Doing nothing, absolutely. And bishop a6 was a correct reaction. Just getting rid of my light squared bishop. My god. I told you. I was really tired. Okay, how to justify all that shit? I don't know anymore. Yeah, white's position is no longer that attractive. It was just several moves ago, but I spent my time on absolute nonsense. Like rook a1, rook e1, back to a1, come on. Super deep maneuvering. Giving white absolutely nothing except for, some inconveniences. Alright. Let's hide the bishop. On h2. Yeah. I did misplay this position. Could have played it much, much better than I did. But black keeps on creating weaknesses in his camp, so now I'm pretty happy with my position again. So now my bishop on e5 is just amazing. Go away. Knight e4 to start with. Now g4, almost automatic reaction in such a situation. Just trying to open up the position because we have pair of bishops. Maybe I'm completely mistaken, but after rook takes a4, queen a4, and queen g5, I don't really see how black is going. Okay, there's simple rook f8 move. That's how black is going to protect the knight on g5. So maybe I should start with queen g5, but then rook f8 anyway, but then g takes f5, e f5, and bishop f5, at least attacking something. So bishop on a4 is kind of henning, right? It's not henning right now, but I mean queen is pinned to protecting that bishop, so queen cannot really take part in this defense of the knight. So there are some problems for black because of that, I think. Now, this already looks like very close to something concrete, but maybe not close enough anyway. So what if we just play rook to e1 now? Is it anything? Not sure. Let's try at least. We create a concrete threat of just jumping with the bishop somewhere. From e5, maybe just taking on f6, let's say. And if queen goes away, I mean far away from e6 square, we can consider playing bishop e6 check and then maybe taking on d5 after eliminating the knight on f6. We'll see. There are several ideas, several good ideas, I would say, and queen h4 maybe is one of them. Creating sort of taking on f6 and taking on h7. Maybe consider it as the one, right? Yeah, let's try it. Just want to take f6, take h7, and so forth. Bishops are quite good here. Although my pawn structure is damaged a bit, but bishops are very strong. So now rook a4. Now it looks like very tempting at least. Okay. I don't have to sacrifice anything anymore. With such a great bishop on e5 and this g file open. Let's just go there and finish the attack. So. Hard times for black, right? Check. All right. Rook g6 was better than rook to g2, by the way. But okay, this also cannot be bad, right? We have to finish the game somehow anyway. So okay. Very strange game. Actually, I started playing like a complete moron somewhere around this move. So maybe rook a1 was already not very cool. Knight to e5 was very simple move to make. And I do believe it was the strongest one. So after knight to d7, it's hard to believe black's position is playable. Because I have an amazing advantage in development. I already have pair of bishops, and my attack on the king side should be just decisive. Bishop e7 can give me extra exchange, for example, if I want, because I don't think black can afford playing something like rook to e8 here. And this gives me bishop d6. I'm going to just c4 at some point, and it's over, just like here. So I just play c4. It should be just over, because in addition to different things connected to cd5, I have simple idea: bishop h7, queen h5, rook to h8, checkmate. So just a complete domination here. Yeah, knight e5 was just a move here. I played this stupid rook a1, giving black time first of all, and then I played another stupid move, queen e3. So here I do believe after bishop a6, black is just fine. And black is just fine because without that light squared bishop, white has no real attack on the king side. At least it will be extremely hard to achieve anything there. And black still has pretty cool prospects on the queen side, just preparing b6, b5, I believe. So bishop a6 was a great chance. That's why I told you guys that queen e3 was just a stupid move. Right after I noticed I missed this bishop a6, I was already sure that, well, I'm missing my chance to win the game. But then black played bishop c6, which was, I believe, not that cool, at least compared to bishop a6. And, well, I've got my chances again. I've got my chances back. And obviously this f5 was also a mistake, in my opinion. This weakens e5, and now I have very simple play. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being with me, for spending your time. Sorry for this show. I mean, it was quite boring, I believe. Uh, I was not very energetic. I was quite tired, almost right from the start. But still, I do hope that you actually managed to learn something new. Maybe you found some of my explanations pretty useful. Um, yeah, if you did, I'm happy. Wish you all the best, guys, and see you next week. Bye bye.